Thank you for joining Axum Nuclear and Oncology and MIM Software for this lunchtime workshop. It's more a presentation that will be done by Babajide Falae from MIM Software. He's the Senior Business Development Manager at MIM Software. And Axum Nuclear and Oncology has been partners with them since 2017 about. And Babajide is going to give you a run over of the different software packages and all the new features that they've developed that's going to be available soon. Babajide, over to you.
Thank you, Yanni. Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies again for the technical difficulties. So I'll be going through a few slides, but it's also be in the actual application itself. So the new standard for nuclear medicine. With MIM, a little bit of background on our company. We've been around since about 2001, where we have grown from a single person company to quite a bit more. Now we're about 350 plus, but we have 4 offices globally. Our headquarters is in the US, in Cleveland, Ohio, but also offices in Brussels, Belgium, as well as Chengdu and Beijing, China. So 18 of the top 20 cancer centers in the US specifically use our system, either in nuclear medicine and or radiation oncology. And again, we've grown quite a bit since we started. So now we're at for almost 5,000 sites globally, where it's been a big boost to our company, especially since around the 2018, 2019, once we started moving into SPECT-CT processing. So background, or at least just generally, nuclear medicine, diagnostic, therapeutic images. We all know perfusion images and renal, all those different images, PET-CTs as well. But then in therapeutic side, we've certainly heard a good bit about the lutetium tracers, PSMA, dotatate, iodine, and some of the more cutting edge and downstream or newer treatments such as actinium or maybe FAPI or different therapeutics. Now, MIM itself, we provide solutions for single sites, but also for networks of hospitals or clinics. Here's an example of a site or a group that had 4 hospitals, all of which had different solutions that they're using, a combination of different cameras, processing workstations. And when you have such a site, a lot of times you do have downstream impacts on the cost to maintain those different systems that are in those departments. And we've seen a cycle of maybe every 5 years, you have to restructure everything. So we're looking to be able to provide something that is able to provide good value to those departments. So here's an example for one of our sites that came online a few years ago. They had multiple systems, different packs, Siemens Single Via, Accelerus, and what they wanted to do is bring everything under one roof, under one system, one user interface. So with MIM and what we provide for nuclear medicine, PET-CT, SPECT-CT, general nuclear medicine, and of course the dosimetry functionalities, we provide one-stop shop for all clinicians, no matter what where the patient's images are acquired or which camera in the department acquired those images. And then also because we are in nuclear medicine and radiation oncology, we have a very similar user interface, so radiation oncologists can come into nuclear medicine and maybe consult on some of the cases and vice versa. So in nuclear medicine, we've seen situations where the isodose plans or the isodose data set is sent into nuclear medicine, displayed on top of your PET-CTs, and you're able to see was the treatment effective, or are you seeing reoccurrence, are you seeing inflammation, different things like that. So with this suite of tools specifically for nuclear medicine, again, diagnostic, PET-CT, SPECT-CT, we also have neuro and quant applications as well. But also on the therapeutic side, we are providing a single platform to do a lot of the functions that you want. And what does that look like? Just high level, MIM being in the center, you're able to connect with any of your modalities, packs, and any printers, CD burners that you want. And then of course, because we try to meet our customers wherever they're at, whether it's a thick client or a virtual environment like Citrix or VMware, we can be installed on those platforms as well. So from a clinical perspective, what is that we're trying to do? We're trying to standardize and optimize the clinician's workflow. To do that, we identify what are the things that are typically done, whether it's physician, physicist, technologist. Here are a few of those functionalities that are done in the departments: therapy planning, or just calling prior images from PACS, different image acquisitions, all those different things. What we want to do is provide a system that will take some of that burden off of you, but alleviate some of that time to be purposed to newer treatments, more personal care with your patients, and really just focus on the overall patient workflow and experience. To do this, one of the major things that allows for that standardization, but more so the automation, is MIM Assistant. So MIM Assistant, once it's in the department, it uses event and time-based triggers to accomplish some of those automations that we're talking about. So here's an example of patient coming in, gamma camera, images are acquired, sent to MIM. Once in MIM, one of the things that we can do, which is more so automating what's already fast to process in our system, is the automatic segmentation of some of the areas of interest. So in this case, on a thyroid case, MIM automatically segments the thyroid uptake, creates a background, and saves a session for the clinician to come in and say, do you like this or not? If you do not like it, you're more than welcome to change it. We're not making any decisions for the clinicians. We're just helping you through some of the, the steps that you would typically do. So you like it, you get the report, you get the image acquisition sent to PACS. Another example, SPECT CT. In our system, it's able to automatically reconstruct that SPECT CT image. So if it's the conventional OSEM process, no worries. If you want to do quantitative, we can also do that as well. And we will just calibrate based on your SPECT and CT and have everything set up. But like I mentioned earlier, prior images can also be fetched, similar to what we do on the PET CT side. What I'm going to do right now is just transition into the application. So I'm going to go through a SPECT CT case and a couple of planar cases. So the first one, as just an example, is a SPECT CT, where we have, it's a lung SPECT CT. We have the perfusion and the ventilation image. This is a default workflow where I'm just going to launch MIM. MIM identifies all the images. You have some parameters as a user. You can certainly make some changes. But what it's going to do is to fuse everything, but also call up some of the automatic contours it created. So here you have the left and right lungs already segmented, and you can determine if you want to keep it or if you want to change it. So if you wanted to just tweak something, you're more than welcome to make that change. But if you, for instance, for here, if you wanted to add it, you can really just, as you see fit. So we have much more automatic functions, similar to what you're seeing here, but for a large 3D volume. And then, once you're okay with it, you can just resume. And now, what MIM will do is walk us through the process of creating your different lobes. So here, you have a capture, just tells you, okay, what it will look like. And what we'll do here is to just simply segment it, kind of like paint. And so you see we did it on one plane. But then you going through multiple planes, MIM will automatically adjust to the anatomy. Okay, so let's say we did another one. And assuming we like that, I'm going to resume. And we're going to do the next fissure. Okay, so you are able to modify it. And you'll see how it will, adjust. Okay, so assuming that's correct, I'm not a physician or, clinical in any way. But here we're just going to do one more on the left lung. So for interest of time, I'll just move through. MIM is doing the fusion across the SPECT, or across the perfusion and the ventilation images to our single CT. And by just resuming after we verify that we like the registration, MIM will do all the calculations for you. So you have these images at the bottom, and assuming you like how everything looks, again, you have the MIPS image. The top row is our perfusion, bottom is our ventilation, and there are other pages also involved in this session. So MIM is creating multiple pages, different layouts. At the sites that do have MIM, have been set up by our team with Axim. You can have whatever page layout you want, and assuming you like everything, we'll just resume. MIM will automatically take all the captures for you, and you have everything that can be sent to PACS with one click. Okay, so you can also set the system to automatically push everything to PACS without having to do any additional clicks. So another case I'll show, but this is a lung planar image, doing a lung shunt. Again, with the idea of standardization automation, you have this patient's image. And again, this is just a quick background on our nukes type things, functionality. Draw the liver, draw the lung, and resume, and then you have results. You can save a session, pick it up next time, make some edits, captures, everything can be automated in the system. And then the last nukes case I'll show is just a renal. And I'll be over there at the booth, and if anyone has any questions, please certainly come by. But here's a renal case where we have both kidneys involved, but you do have the option to determine if you wanted just the left or the right. But assuming you want both, MIM will also be able to segment both left and right kidneys for you, and then it will prompt you based on this notification here, and you can set the notification to whatever you want to draw the next structure. So in this case, it's the aorta. Resume. MIM will create the background. We could automatically create the cortex for you as well. And if you want to make a correction on any one of these frames, you're more than welcome to do so. But by clicking OK, it's asking us where's the Lasix. And if you had dual acquisition, we will also be able to support that, no problem. So you can set it to whatever you want. It does remember the last number that was there. And with that, MIM will complete the rest of the processing. Captures can automatically be taken, automatically push to PACS, access it from there. But oftentimes we have situations where maybe something is drawn irregularly, and you want to update what that looks like. So what I'm going to do now is close out of everything I've done, and cases processed, images are sent to PACS. Clinician does not agree with the ROIs, maybe some things need to be modified. You can just load the session that was automatically saved, open it, and make some modifications as you see fit. So let's say we don't like the right kidney. Make that modification, it appears live, captures, save to PACS, continue with the day. So with that, I'm going to transition back into the slides and pick up where we left off. So what I've shown, we've had that for a few years now. I would say it's definitely the last time I was here, we had those functionalities. But since then, we've also been working on a lot of new things. One of the newest things right now is an improvement over the default lesion ID function in MIM Encore. That's the primary nuclear medicine solution for MIM. Lesion ID allows us to do segmentation of total body, so it allows us to do the total body tumor segmentation and burden calculations. For PSMA, it's already released, PET and SPECT. But then for FDG, we are currently going through the research and concluding how we're going to do it. But overall, Dr. Hoffman right here at his center at Peter Mac, and also some of the other centers such as Dr. Louise Emmett at St. Vincent, Sydney, have worked on a number of different projects, whether it is loop-in, therapy, vision, to do a lot of the groundwork to understand what's going on, how do we approach these cases. Now, with working with a lot of these centers, we've further optimized what we've been able to do. So we started Lesion ID for total body segmentation maybe 6-7 years ago. It's come a long way since then, and then this is the next level for that, where after we do the segmentation, we are also going to leverage our capabilities from radiation oncology, and that's specifically with segmentation. So patient's image, PET, SPECT, gets done, sent to MIM. Once in our system, the assistant will run an event-based trigger. The triggers are to do AI-based segmentation using what's called Contour Protege AI on the CT portion of your image. And on the PET or the functional image, will run the lesion ID that some of your sites are already familiar with. Once done, we will save out a session for the clinicians to open. So what does that look like in your system? So what I'm going to do now is to pivot to one of these cases where we have a PSMA case right here. And what you're going to see when you come into MIM is this, a session. Without doing anything else, you just double click on the session. And what's going to happen is that MIM is going to display, or if there's any issues, it will prompt you. So in this case, it says the brain was not in the field of view. So we just acknowledge it. But what's happening here is that MIM has identified all the activity, and we split into two. Physiological uptake is in blue, and in red is the tumor, the PSMA uptake. For this, we are using a lot of the groundwork that's been done, where 3 SUV is the threshold, and based on that threshold, we are also adding volume limitations. Lower end is 1 milliliter, higher end is, actually we leave the upper end, but before we used to have a higher end of about 150 milliliters. But now it's just 1 milliliter at the bottom, so you can actually see the cutoff information in the bottom right corner of my screen. So if you agree with this, you'll see the notification in the top right corner, where you do have options to delete, to keep, or to delete everything. So I'm just going to delete what we see on the as the physiological uptake. And now what you're left with are the ROIs. So before, what we were providing, the idea was to get to what you're seeing now. But because of where things have been, and now that a lot of things are starting to leverage a lot of the AI functionalities, again, not on the functional image, but on the anatomical, on the CT image. We're now able to leverage all that information where our AI functionality is built using tens of thousands of CT images with varying degrees of quality from centers all over the globe. So here, instead of having to do one by one, MIM has cut that down dramatically. So you have all your stats, and we can add more stats to this list if you needed some, but just as an example, these are just some of the stats that, once you hover over the contours, it'll show you. And if you still wanted a per ROI, sets of information, here on this far left side, you do have SUV information, volume information, everything is there at your fingertips. You can export everything into a report. You can export everything into a CSV, however way you want to display it. And the same script would be able to use to compare multiple time points. So when you talk about multiple time points, as an example, again, in a clinical situation, everything will be sent to MIM. MIM will automatically do the segmentation on the CT using our AI platform, and then functional calculations, we're using a 3 SUV cutoff, and we'll be able to do displays like this. So here you're looking at a pre and a post-therapy diagnostic PET-CT, and in the middle you have 4 cycles of lutetium PSMA. So everything will be displayed together, so you can display it however way you want to, have any stats you want on the image. So if you also want to do a percent comparison from baseline, everything is built into our system. A lot of this functionality is done in the background. Just open your case, load the session, remove physiological uptake, and you're pretty much done. You can add additional contours. So if we go back to that same session I was just in, for this particular patient, especially when I first came across this case, this structure that we're looking at right here, it would have just popped out to me to say, okay, maybe I should have segmented that. So what I'm going to use right now is our PET Edge tool. And just to show what this looks like, I'm going to click on it, and you can see we automatically segment it. Multiple levels of 3D segmentation using gradient-based segmentation, not threshold. But again, we create that ROI. Now, if we were to look at it, it does not meet the cutoffs that we were set in initially. But we can modify things for you if you wanted to add it. It will work quite well. So the default that everybody would have had is very similar. Yes, there's a little bit more work relative to segmenting some of the anatomical structures, but with this, we're looking to reduce that dramatically. So tests have been done internally to do a comparison on what it was before. I don't I didn't add this here, but very good on the sensitivity and also the specificity as well when we did comparison to a golden data set. And another new thing, well, it was relatively new at the time. The last time I was here was 2019. So that was when we got FDA clearance for our molecular radiotherapy platform called SurePlan MRT. It's pretty much building off of what we've been able to do on the diagnostic side with identifying all the tumors, but leveraging some of the things I've already talked about as far as AI-based segmentation. So a lot of times what we've seen when we've been going from hospital to hospital, different clinical setups, is that when it comes to scalability, it's not as practical. So where things are different, everyone's at different stages globally. Everyone's at different stages. You have some sites that are maybe doing 4 PSMA a day. You have some sites that are doing 1 a month. So it varies dramatically. But what's been consistent across all of them is the amount of time it takes to do the processing for each cycle. So there's a lack of standardization, a lack of automation, and a lack of confidence in what's actually being done. So when it comes to standardization, we provide a single platform that's able to do all your segmentation. So you either take what we give you in terms of the AI segmentation of all the normal structures. The radiation oncology package comes with 100+ structures head to toe. What we provide with MRT has about 15 structures that are typically common. So you're talking about the parotid, submandibular glands. We even do bones, spleen, kidneys, liver, bladder, all those normal big gross structures. But also, with the system, we provide vendor-neutral quantitative spec reconstruction. So regardless of what camera you have, for the most part, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, as long as you have a spec CT camera, we'd be able to take those images once we've done the SPECT and the CT calibration and reconstruct everything in our system. From what we've seen, it's a fraction of what you will need to, or would have to spend to get the same functionality in the OEM platforms. So this function is being used by many centers, large and small, opt to get our system because it's vendor neutral. So even if they have the spec CT from 2 differing vendors in our system, we'd be able to do the reconstruction for both systems on our platform. So again, we're vendor neutral. So as far as automation is concerned, in our system, we can do the calculation in under 10 minutes. So that's because of all the functions that we're doing on the front end. So everything's just automated with the reconstruction. You don't have to go anywhere and click anything. But also, if you wanted to do the AI segmentation, and then we do have different options when it comes to dose calculations. So single time point dosimetry is one of that. We've done validations. We have a white paper that addresses our method. So when it comes to single time point, you have the hand sheet approach, but also you have the prior information approach, where first cycle, multiple spec CTs. And then every cycle after that, leveraging the pharmacokinetics from the first cycle, we'll apply that to every cycle afterwards. So when you do a comparison on what's being done in our system versus the typical systems, we are cutting down on a lot of the time you're spending in these cases. So here you have the reconstruction, the segmentation, the calculations. A lot of that we are cutting down. And if you have 20 patients per month, obviously it's going to be a lot depending on the market. You're cutting about 40 hours out of your month in terms of just processing alone. And then, of course, like I said before, just knowing what you're doing. Where is the dose going? We will be able to tell you where that's going. So leveraging our radiation oncology background, being able to show you the dose distribution, being able to show you the dose volume histogram, which again, I'll show you in a few minutes here, will give you a lot more confidence on what's going on. But even after you're done, what's happening now is that these patients that are receiving these treatments are getting downstream follow-up treatments in radiation oncology, whether it's external beam, SBRT, all these different approaches. Rad-oncs don't know what's going on. They have no idea. So with our system, we're not just doing calculations and not being able to export anything, doing the calculations, saving out the data in DICOM format, able to actually be used in radiation oncology, leveraging biologically effective dose. We do have different bottles as well, and we're also building new bottles to address some of the new treatments that we're seeing as well. So what I'm going to do now is just switch into the software, and I probably should have logged out of this. Apologies. And I'll log in there, and we will see this in a few moments here. Don't do this again, Echo. Sorry. So when we launch this, I'm going to open a session which has already been processed, but I'll show you what it looks like when we go through the actual loading of that case. And just to buy us a little bit more time while that is loading right now. Okay. All right, so here's a case, 3 time points, and the way I'm not gonna run everything through right now, but just show you the setup. So some of this is just output from the calculation. And I'm going to select the 3 spec CTs. So MIM has also done the quantitative reconstruction for this image. Again, just, right now you can see the image from the GE camera, but MIM is able to do that reconstruction. And it will just load the case. And I'll just show you the results of it, just again, in the interest of time. So when this case is opening, what's happening, or what would have happened prior, image would have come in, the raw image, the raw tomo. As soon as it gets into MIM, MIM will do all the quantification. Again, it's a full reconstruction platform, so we're talking about attenuation correction, resolution recovery, scatter correction, all those different things are done in the system. AI-based segmentation of the organs at risk are also done. So with that, we're able to do all the calculations where MIM will automatically align all specs. So a multi-spec CT case, 3 time point case is what I loaded. We'll align all the images where it's not just going to be a global body alignment, but ROI, organ-specific, tumor-specific alignment across all the time points. By being able to do that, we are also able to create your time activity curve to which we're doing all the calculations. So once we've done those calculations, again, it takes about 3 minutes on my laptop, you have this result, this page, what you're looking at. So for those that are familiar in the radiation oncology side of things, you'll have your dose volume histogram, which it puts the volume information against the dose that you've delivered, showing you how much has been delivered to each organ, which is in each of these different colors. But also at the bottom, it gives you, on a per ROI basis, the max dose, the mean dose for each of those structures. So you actually would know what was delivered for each of the patients, for each of the ROIs, and then in a color map, you have the isodose lines, isodose information. So each of these different colors correlate to a different amount of gray absorbed by the tumor or by the kidney. So again, because we've done all the segmentation, you don't have to do any of that. A lot of times when we've seen clinicians do the segmentation, maybe the liver 20 minutes on its own. To do this segmentation on my laptop takes about 5 minutes. So if you're talking about doing a head-to-toe patient, you're talking about definitely close to an hour, hour and a half, maybe even a little bit longer. So you cut that time, you do everything in our system, and you have all the results. Just for display, I elected to add the calendar information so you can see when the patient was injected, also when the images were acquired. So when it comes to referring physicians, they'll see the distribution of the treatment, where it was absorbed, but also when the patient was injected. What you're seeing on this page is the mean information, the dose, the absorbed dose, the mean dose for each ROI, but also we're showing you the amount of dose relative to the activity given. So for this patient, assume we gave 74 gray, not 74 gray, 7.4 gigabecquerel, you have the dose distribution that you're seeing. And for each one of these, and I don't know if you can, like in Zoom, okay, it's not coming across that way, but for each of these normal organs, you are able to adjust the activity. So if you say the max dose, the max mean dose for each of these structures, so let's say for the bones, we wanted to push it to 10. You can see what that will look like. So you can really scale it up. So it's not, what we're doing here is assuming the dose that you gave can be scaled. And based on the activity, the dose absorbed by each of these structures, for the next cycle, maybe you can increase the amount of dose. Maybe you should decrease the amount of dose. We've had examples of patients going through all 4 cycles after doing dosimetry. Kidneys got 7.3 gigabecquerel, 7.3 gray. We've also had situations where another patient, after the first cycle, they got 13 gray, where, you know, if we use what's in radiation oncology for external beam, kidneys should not get more than 23 gray. So if one cycle is giving 13 in one situation and another patient, after 4 cycles, you're getting 7.3, how do you determine what should be given on a personalized dosimetry, on a personalized treatment basis? So we'll be able to provide you a lot more information than what you have. You can take this information and, again, scale it up. So if you say, okay, you know what, let me see what 1200, what it will be if it was, 12 gigabecquerel. And again, scale the whole thing and adjust it as you see fit. So for, maybe more so for the physicists, you do have some additional information that can be calculated. Resonance time, curve fit parameters, everything. We've done the curve fitting for you automatically in the background. Again, you don't have to do any of that by hand, Excel, what have you. Everything's automatically done for you, time activity curve. So by the time you're done, you can have a report that generates everything. You could also have captures that are automatically created, capture new ones. So if you wanted to take this capture of this page, again, you just click the button and you have that. You can push it to PACS. So if, as an example, I actually did save the report, what it potentially could look like. Again, with the DVH, with the mean information, the mean dose information. Then you do have the ability to leverage the scorecard, the dose scorecard. So if you set parameters on how much the threshold, the amount of dose the different structures should get or not get, you can set that up to automatically be calculated. So again, reduce the amount of work that you're going to do. So all in all, we try to provide something that will work for everyone. So we do have single time point calculation. We support over 25 isotopes in our system, and we have the ability to add even more. So for some of the novel tracers, again, a single platform to do all that. According to SMMI, most sites in the US that are centers of excellence actually use SharePlan MRT. Again, there have been other systems that have been around for a while, but with the advent of what we've been able to provide and constantly update, so 2019, 4 years ago, every year since then, we've provided major updates to the system as part of the system. So we're constantly adding things. 7.4 is going to be the next version of MIM, and beta is going to be in December. Release is going to be end of Q1, early Q2. And again, 7.5, the next version after that is already being in development. So we're constantly adding. We're never stagnant. We never stay still. And we just want to make sure we make things as easy for you in your clinical workflow. So personalized dosimetry made practical. So there you go. Thank you. I think we're done.